Hey everybody. I hope that little technical snafu didn't oh, hold on. Sorry about that. Evidently I had something on back there. Um anyway, welcome to an impromptu altered version of Friday Foolish. This is Sunday Silly. And I hope those of you that were here early got to enjoy the intro. Um, I know I sent the link to Candice. I hope she got it. She may just be a little bit late. Can anybody see and hear me? Because there was a lot of if y'all can see me, please, and you hear me talking, please put in the chat that you can see and hear me, because I'm not sure, because a bunch of different things happen at one time, and it may have messed things up. So, or people might have had to go out of here and come back or whatever. But um, let me. I'm going to take myself out of the stream for a second, and check with Candace to make sure that she got that link. Okay, so I just got Candace's message, but I see her backstage now. So, for the benefit of people that may have missed that new intro that I had for this special edition of Sunday Silly, talking about badass women and horror, I'm going to play that intro over because there was a little bit of a snafu with it earlier, but we'll just play that again, shall we? Hold on. I ain't got my oars all in the water here, people. Um, let's try this again. Okay, finally got it right. So I hope everybody enjoyed that little kind of spicier intro into our show because this is going to be, excuse my language, but I'm hoping this is going to be a kick ass show because we're going to be talking about badass women in horror. I've got a stack of movies here beside me, and me and Candace may, as usual, we may crisscross on some of these movies we talk about, which is fine, um, because we can talk about them. I can talk about a little bit about it. Candace can talk a little bit about it. Yes, I did say ass, TJ. But there's a reason why these videos aren't marked for kids. It's because there may be a curse word used here and there. We're not going to get real nasty, but you know, there might be ass and damn and shit and stuff like that thrown around. So, um, I try to play it safe and not mark any of these for kids because I don't know, unless you have a parent there, I don't think kids should really be watching these type of videos anyway. So I am going to go ahead and add Candace here. Hey,
Hey,
Candace.
Dana. Hey, everybody. Sorry I was a little bit late.
Well, I was running behind too, and then I had a couple of snafus while I was trying to get this up here. What do you think of the new background and the intro?
I love it. I thought that was awesome. Kick ass, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I was trying to go through some stuff on AI, and it kept wanting to make us half naked. And I was like, well, that's not exactly the image I want to project. But I finally got it where we've got leather pants on. And so, I mean, it wasn't like it was showing boobs, but it would
Yeah.
have like our pants way down and it'd be showing our stomach. It looked like we had went to the gym and like worked out religiously all
Oh
day
my
and all night or something. I don't know. I mean, it looked good, but that's not really a proper representation of me, I know. So,
Oh, me either, Dana Lord.
oh, oops, there I go again, hitting the wrong button. You can see where my head's at today.
I've been
So,
running around like a chicken with my head cut off.
I've been dealing with dogs and dealing with all kinds of stuff. They don't. Speaking of that, I think all the dogs are in. When you got 5 dogs, it's like a revolving door around here. They're in and out all
Oh
the time.
gosh. I could understand. I got 2 and it's like that. Couldn't
Uh,
imagine 5.
So I just wanted to, before me and Candace get started on the topic of interest today, which is badass women in art, I just wanted to let everybody know that I have buku of products on the site at deaditesondeck.com. I don't know if Candace has had a chance to check out the site since I've gotten all that stuff up there or not.
I have. It looks awesome. If you've not checked it out, make sure you go and stop by.
I also have at least 3 new commercials out
Mhm.
advertising the shop. One is a creepy one, um, and a couple of them are me and Steve doing our shtick, which is kind of funny if you
They are funny. I laughed all the way through both of those.
those that was kind of improvisation on
Yeah.
both our parts. We just we kind of said, okay, we're gonna do this, and then we just did it. And like if Darcy barked or something in the middle of it like she did, we just worked her into the skit. So,
Oh, yeah,
uh,
she made it fun too.
but Steve with the I Love Robert England shirt and him
Yes,
saying, "How did
Dana
I get this shirt on?"
I said, "How did Dana convince him to wear that?" I'm
That was his idea,
oh, well.
oddly enough. Because first he was going to wear the Friday Foolish shirt, and I was going to wear the I Love Robert England shirt.
Yeah.
And then he said at the last minute, he said, I want to wear the I Love Robert England shirt. And I said, don't you think that might be a little gay? And he said, no offense to people that are homosexual. I'm just saying, I looked for Wes or somebody to say, Steve looks ultra gay in that shirt that
Well, that's
says I love
okay.
Robert. And Steve said, well, I think it would look gay if I wore the pink Friday Foolish shirt. I said, okay, whatever. We'll switch up. So, anyway, if you haven't checked those out on the Deadites on Deck YouTube channel, tool on over there. After we do this, of course, we don't want to take away from our audience and check those commercials out and also check the site out. See if there might be something that you might want to purchase for you or your significant other or a friend or family member. I'm going to be making a T-shirt design for this badass women in horror just because I like this design.
Well, I think that we should do more than one because and not just horror,
Mhm.
but film. Because there's
Yeah,
people that I would like to talk about that's not necessarily horror
yeah,
that, wouldn't
exactly.
really go into this because there's a lot of things that we could talk about on that kind of subject.
Yeah, and there's going to be a couple of films that I'm going to talk about today that people are going to say, well, that's not really horror, but I'm mixing it
Yeah.
in there.
Hi,
Um,
Blissful.
hey, Blissful. Hey, Batman. Batman says real men wear pink. Well, we need to tell Steve that. X-Ray says badass women. Where are the badass men of horror? Dana done gone full woke. No, what I've done with this X-Ray is because me and Candice are women. We can talk about badass men, but I think badass
There's
men
a
get
lot of
their
those.
they get their due.
Mhm.
I don't think women, the badass women, get as much um, respect as and I'm not trying to be woke. I'm just saying it is what it is. um, Women don't get talked about unless it's women talking about them. The men don't generally tend to talk. They want to talk about some badass action dude and something, you know and I get it, but we're just trying to kind of turn things upside down a little bit and talk about something that maybe a lot of people aren't talking about right now. So, I guess we can go ahead and get started. Candace, did you want to go first and throw one of yours out
I'll
there?
let you take the reins because you have a stack of movies, and if you know in between, if there's something I want to talk about, I can throw it out there.
Okay. So this first one, I'm sure that Candace is going to have something to say about this because we've already discussed this particular character. But that's Ellen Ripley from
Mm,
the Alien franchise, played
yeah,
by Sigourney Weaver. When I think of badass women in horror or in any movie for that matter, Ellen Ripley comes to mind. And why does she come to mind? Because she's very resourceful in the Alien franchise. She never takes a back seat to these men, number two.
yeah,
Um, and number three, she's just kick ass. I mean, if you watch the movies, you can, it's not even like she has an arc. It's like she came out of the womb a badass. I don't think that she has any weak parts, especially in the first two Alien films. I don't think she has any weak parts of her personality at all. Now, Candace, would you agree with that, or do you see any weak parts with her?
well, when it comes to her or the Alien franchise, I don't know much about it. I've seen it once when I was a kid. Chris would be the one that's his favorite of all time is Ripley. But so but from what I've seen and from what I know, I would have to agree, but I would really need to sit down and watch the
Watch it
movies.
again.
For some reason, they never were on my radar to watch. My aunt watched them, and that's how I watched maybe the first one or maybe the second one. But I was so young, I couldn't really tell you anything about it. But just from what I've seen and from what Chris has showed me and from what I've seen in that area, I mean, she looks badass. I can tell you that.
Yeah,
So
that's a good point to bring up. She does look
she
badass throughout
looks
the
it.
entire
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's strong and like she could really whoop some alien ass. So,
And she certainly does. And like, there's a scene where she doesn't even look like it's phasing her that much. There's a scene where the alien queen or the xenomorph is like right cheek to cheek with her, and
yeah,
it's
I
got its
remember that.
mouth open and
Mhm.
the
Yep.
stuff is the slime is dripping,
Yeah.
and she just grits her teeth and goes into
Mhm.
battle with the alien
Yeah.
queen at that point. And I'm like, if that's not the definition of badass, I don't know what is,
Mhm.
because this was probably one of the first movies where a woman really took charge.
Yeah.
Because some people say badass women in horror, they think of Laurie Strode.
Yeah.
No, Laurie Strode, like, I love Jamie Lee Curtis. I love the Laurie Strode character in the first Halloween, but I would not call that character a badass.
Yeah.
She might be a little resourceful, but she's not a take charge character. And Ellen Ripley is a take charge character.
Yeah, she's different in that sense. Now, Lori had to do what she had to do, but she wasn't prepared. I believe Sigourney Weaver's character was more prepared to take on that role than, Lori's just a kid. Or basically, she's just a teenager, and just been thrown into this mix of pure chaos. So I guess it's a little bit different in that sense.
Oh, well, don't even get me started on Scout Taylor Compton. No, not. I mean, you're entitled to your own opinion, X-Ray, but she was not the best Laurie Strode.
Now, when
She
I
was.
think of badass women, I do think of Laurie Strode because to me, I take a lot of inspiration from her character because, she really had to persevere and push through. So, there's different levels of badassness, I guess is what you can say. There's like the Sigourney
Right,
Weaver's type of badass, and then there's, the Laurie Strode type of badassness.
right.
Everybody's got their own opinion on how things are.
Mm,
And, just in my point of view, Lori, she with like I said, she was just thrown into this.
mhm.
Which in a way, I guess uh, Ripley was too. I mean, I'm sure that they, wasn't prepared that much, to fight these big xenomorphs or whatever. But like I said, it's all in a difference of opinion and how you view things.
Right,
So
and
there's people.
I like your take on that, Candace, I do, because it gave me a new like, it gives me a new perspective on the Laurie Strode character,
Yeah.
and it makes me wanna go back and watch Halloween actually again, um, so let's see what people are saying here, Batman says, "I know one that might be underrated, Barbara from Night of the Living Dead, 1990."
Mhm.
I would agree with that one. I didn't have that one in my stack today, but
I hadn't thought of that one, but that's.
a future show, I
Mhm.
could definitely bring her up. Um, X-Ray says, "Bitch died, then comes back 200 years later and finally destroys the xenomorphs." That's right. That makes her badass too, I think. Um, Batman says she was smart enough to not let Kane back in at first. Yeah. Uh, Hey, Bookhouse boy. X-Ray says Sigourney is like 6'1". She's a giant.
She's just not menacing in a bad way, but just in when she takes on those parts like that, like in Ghostbusters. When she
Hmm.
becomes, here she is like just a normal looking woman, but whenever she becomes possessed, with I guess you would call it possessed. I
Yeah.
mean, she is like you don't want to cross her.
No,
You look
that's
at
a
her.
good one to bring up too. The Dana character from
Yeah.
Ghostbusters, and she has my name too. So
Yeah. You just don't want to cross her. I mean, they picked the right person to play that part, I think. Because I mean, she's seductive in a way,
oh
but
my
she's
gosh, yeah.
scary, and it's like because Bill Murray cracks me up whenever she's like that, and he's kind of playing along with the seductiveness of it.
I didn't have a huge crush on Rick Moranis.
I do.
I like Rick Moranis, and
I've
he's
had a
so
crush on him forever.
see, Candace had a crush on him.
Oh heck yeah, I still do. I love Rick Moranis.
There's nothing wrong with Rick Moranis. I just never, I had a crush on him. But there's
I
been
think he's
other nerdy
cute.
guys I have.
Yeah, like Crispin Glover. I think he's cute and weird and strange, but he's cute.
One that not a lot of people might not be familiar with, and Candace might not be familiar with, is Don Scardino from He Knows You're Alone. Redheaded guy. Like, I just was so in love with him on that movie as Marvin. Um, but, Steve looks at me sometimes like, why do you find, you know, them attractive? John Amplis and Martin.
Yeah.
I had the
Yeah.
hugest crush on John Amplis in
Yeah,
that
he's
movie.
a great guy too.
And I told John Amplis when I met him, and he was like, "Oh, that's so sweet."
Yeah. He's sweet. He really is in person. He really is. And I've never seen that movie before, but and I didn't even know who he was when I met him. So
Mhm.
Chris really liked him and we went and met him and I was like, "Wow, that guy was really nice." Then I familiarized myself with who he was and stuff like that. So I was like, oh wow, that's pretty neat.
Uh, Batman says, "Can't forget her line in Aliens. Get away from her, you bitch." So it's another bitch that she's talking to, this alien queen. So um, he's no Steve. Steve's my number one crush. He always will be, but that
I
doesn't mean
always
I can't have movie crushes.
I always like the nerdy guys.
Me
Not
too.
always. I mean, there's some that you're like, but
Well, sleazy, nerdy guys, not no, but
yeah,
the unassuming, sweet, nerdy guys, yeah,
yeah.
fall for that every time.
Screech, no, but Rick Moranis, yes.
We got to draw the line somewhere. Uh,
Hey, I that's no joke, X-Ray Punch. Urkel, whenever
mm,
he got older and started like, he started getting buff, he was good looking. Jaleel
yeah,
White,
when he changed up, what was his character when he changed from?
Stefan.
Yeah, Stefan. Yeah,
Stefan or Cal, yeah. I love Family Matters. That's one of my favorite movie or TV shows. Like, everybody has, like, their favorite TV family. They they're probably my favorite TV family.
I always loved Family Matters.
I love it. And
When it was
he
on TGI Fridays.
yes, yes, and Full House and all that good stuff. Step by Step. I love all those shows. I still watch them.
Yeah, I have great nostalgia for those days. Buddy Limbeck from Charles in Charge. I can't remember. I can't remember Buddy. It's been so long since I watched Charles in Charge, though.
Isn't that his friend?
It might be Candace. Like I said, I have like the first season of Charles in Charge, but
Yeah.
I ain't watched it in so long.
My mom watched it. She liked it back in the early 90s and stuff. I remember her and I've watched it before, but I just can't remember all the characters and stuff.
So I mean, there's probably not a whole lot more I can say about the Ellen Ripley character, but I like where it went. Like we started talking about Ghostbusters, and
Yeah.
we talked a little bit
Yeah.
about Laurie Strode, which gave me a new perspective here. That's one reason I like doing these
Yeah.
things too. Sometimes you get a new perspective, but you
Yeah.
got to have an open mind about it. And I had an open mind listening to
Yeah.
Candace talk about why she still thought Laurie Strode was a badass, and that's interesting.
Yeah, she was one that I was wanting to talk about. She was one of my main ones that I was wanting to talk about because, I mean, I see her that's the way I see her as.
Mhm.
Other people may not, but I do. You just have to look at it at different types of ways. You have to look deeper for some people. And she's
Mhm.
one that you kind of have to look deeper into.
Yeah, it's kinda
To
like
kind
an
of see
onion or something, peeling layers off.
yeah.
Uh, oh, Willie Ames's character. Okay, okay, I got you, TJ. When he said
Mhm.
Willie Ames, I was like, "Okay, I'm starting to remember now." Alright, so here's one that might be a little controversial with people, and they may think, "Why has she got this person in Badass Women in Heart?" Well, I'm gonna tell you why I think she fits in. And that is Carrie White, played by Sissy Spacek.
Yeah, that's my first one I was wanting to talk about.
Oh, cool. Okay, so I'll talk a little bit about it, and then I'll turn it over to Candace and give her perspective on it. Now, the reason why I picked Carrie White is because Carrie White is bullied
Yeah.
in school unmercifully. If
Yeah.
you don't believe me and you have not seen this movie, watch the opening scenes of this movie.
Yes, it
And
kills me.
and it is so it's not horrific, but it is uh,
Degrading.
degrading. That's the perfect
Yeah.
word because, and I'm not trying to be gross here. I'm just outlining the beginning scenes of this film. We see Carrie and her classmates in gym class, and they're playing volleyball. And Carrie is just like I always was in gym class, uncoordinated.
Yeah.
Okay, I couldn't play most sports to save my life. I was okay at basketball, I was okay at badminton, but you put me in there doing something like baseball or volleyball, I was just terrible at it. Terrible at it. And mom's always said, "You got it honest, Dana." But I was always the one that when they would have the popular people pick teams, I was always the one that got picked last. I was always the one that got ridiculed when we were, playing baseball or softball or whatever. And it really hurt.
It
You
does.
know, thankfully I didn't have to deal with it on like I'd say a day to day to day basis. And I only had PE class my freshman year of high school, and then you didn't have to have PE or
Yeah.
gym after that. So I thank the good Lord up above that I did not have to do that. If they had just had us exercising or walking the track or even
Yeah.
running the track, I would have been fine with that. But sports, that's a totally different thing. There's a lot of ways that you can exercise your body
Well,
at the
thankfully,
same.
my high school, they allowed you if you didn't wanna take part in the sports, they allowed you to walk the track. Um, so I
That's
got
good,
I
though.
got lucky in that sense, and you also didn't even have to participate, but if you didn't participate in some way, you would fail, so I would always walk.
Well, if they gave me the option, I would say, "I'll walk the track. I'll walk the track for 2 hours rather than,
Yeah,
play these sports or
yeah.
whatever." But they didn't give us that option, unfortunately. Um, well, actually, I didn't go to Lexington High School X-ray. I went to Hancock County High School, which was, in Lewisport, Kentucky, little bitty small place. Hancock County in and of itself is small. But that was the high school I went to. Um, Blissel says she loved tennis and volleyball. See, I
I
suck
did
at
too. I
volleyball.
liked both of those. I would play those. Those were the 2 that I enjoyed.
Tennis we never played, but
Mhm.
badminton we played. I wasn't bad at
Oh,
badminton.
that's something me and my mom still play is badminton.
Uh, Batman says, "Did you guys know that Jaleel White voiced as Sonic in the
Mhm.
cartoons?" I didn't know that, but evidently Candace did. Um, I Yeah, X-Ray. I could definitely see this. Carrie is a revenge fantasy movie for chicks. Yeah.
I think it's a revenge fantasy for those who were bullied by, no matter what gender you are. I just think that, she gets the ultimate revenge in the end. She gets about it a bad way, but I mean, she gets her revenge for sure.
So, uh, so after the volleyball thing, and
Mm,
she is hit on the head by PJ So's. So's character takes her hat off and hits Carrie on the head. Chris Hargensen, played by Nancy Allen, comes up and says, "You eat shit." I
yeah,
mean, how degrading is that? And Carrie just looks completely degraded and um, just like you had told her dog had died or
yeah,
something. It was just that bad. So then she goes into the shower. She's thinking she'll, wash off the grime and the degrading experience of playing volleyball and not being good at it, and the other girls kind of taunting her and stuff like that, and she's letting the water run over her. You're seeing a close up of her face, the water's running off of her. How many of us have experienced that, men or women, at the end of a very long,
yeah,
bad day? There's nothing like a nice hot bath or a shower or something like that. So, right in the middle of this shower, she starts her first menstrual cycle. And again, I'm not trying to be gross. I'm just telling you what happens in the movie.
it's
And
natural.
Carrie does not know what it is
Mhm.
because her mother is a extreme religious. I'm
Nut.
sorry to say this, yeah, nut, crazy. She's not a regular religious person. She's, one of those weirdos.
Mhm.
And she had never told her own daughter that some point you're going to have a menstrual cycle and this is what's going to happen to you. And back in those days, there weren't sex education
Yeah.
classes where they would take the girls aside and tell them. Also, a girl in high school, some girls started their menstrual cycles late in life. But so she's completely in the dark. She's enjoying this shower, and all of a sudden you see blood run down her leg. Well,
Yeah.
what's somebody supposed to think if they don't understand about the facts of life and blood starts running down their leg from inside their body?
And be horrified.
She is horrified. She thinks she's dying. She doesn't know what's going on, and she runs to the only people that are in that locker room, and that's the girls.
Yeah.
And what do? They turn on her.
Yeah. Really bad.
They start screaming for her to plug it up, throwing tampons, throwing sanitary napkins
Mhm.
at her, and
Basically, back her into a corner.
she curls. She almost literally curls up into a ball. And then the gym teacher comes in and asks them what they're doing and all this stuff. And she goes up to Carrie. She tries to be comforting to Carrie, but she doesn't understand why this girl doesn't know what's going on with her.
Mm-hmm.
So we have all of that, and that's the first flash we see of Carrie's power, her
Yeah.
telekinesis, uh, because the gym teacher, Miss Collins, is shaking her. She says, "Grow up, take care of yourself. Come on, Carrie." And Carrie just loses it, and the light bulb
Yeah.
explodes above them. So you're thinking, there's something going on here. So then she's taken to the principal's office, and of course, Miss Collins talks to the principal, and he's very uncomfortable with the whole thing. He looks down, sees the bloody handprint on Miss Collins' shorts where Carrie had grabbed her. And men don't want to deal with that at all in any capacity. They don't. So he's looking down, and he's obviously distressed. She did slap
Mhm.
her too, Batman, which is something people do when somebody's being hysterical.
Yeah.
Sometimes they will slap them. No, I don't necessarily love getting graphic X-ray, but if I have to explain something, I have to tell you, how degrading this was for Carrie in the film. So then they send Carrie home, and it's just another round. Her mother comes home. Her mother gets a phone call from the school. And what does she do? Subjects Carrie to more torture because
Yep.
she's a nut job.
Yep.
She says, you know, uh, you know, the curse of blood wouldn't have ever come on you if you hadn't sinned. You
Yeah.
lusted after boys. She insinuates that Carrie had sex with a boy.
Yeah.
That's why
And that
this happened.
caused it.
Hmm.
Just
And
crazy.
exactly, very crazy. And then she says, "Go to your closet,
Mhm.
pray, ask to be forgiven." She hits her with, uh, I don't think it's the Bible that she has, but she has one of those tract books.
Yeah.
And she hits Carrie with it, and then she says, "Go to your closet, pray, ask to be forgiven." And she's dragging Carrie into the closet, and Carrie's kicking and screaming, "Mama, please, please, please." And she's still, she throws her in the closet, locks her in the closet in the dark. Carrie only has something to light a candle, and then there's that creepy.
And that closet and
Mhm,
that Jesus that you was getting ready to talk about
mhm.
terrified.
I think it terrified a lot of people. It
It
terrified my
still
cousin.
does. Yeah. Those eyes are just like it's terrifying. And it's supposed to be something that's supposed to be sacred. It's supposed to be something, and
Yeah,
that's why
you're
I think
supposed to get comfort from
yeah,
religion, not
and
not that.
this is, like, really, like, messed up.
And the thing is, that's so sad about the whole thing is I know there are young people out there that have to deal with that sort of
Yeah,
thing.
unfortunately, yeah.
And or other things, that they're sexually abused, emotionally abused, physically abused. There are all of those things. And I think that even though it's mostly emotional and mental anguish that's on Carrie. That's one of the worst kinds
Yeah.
because those scars don't show on the outside. Sexual abuse, the scars don't show on the outside
No.
either.
No.
They're very, very deep. So physical abuse, I'm not trying to say it's not bad. It's horrific, but a bruise will eventually heal. Um, but mental scars, they may never heal.
Yeah. That's
Sexual abuse scars, they may never, ever, ever heal.
and it changes who you are going to be as a person.
And
Changes your whole life.
we see within this movie that these scars are very real to the
Yeah.
character, and they have caused significant damage to Carrie's psyche
Yeah.
um, over time. And so the additional abuse that she is subjected to at school just heightens the release of her telekinetic power.
Yeah.
And because she's in these high stress situations, and whether you believe in telekinesis, don't believe in telekinesis, um, it is said that stress, highly stressed states, will cause that
Mhm.
power, that ability to come
Yeah.
out even more. So Sue Snell, the character played by Amy Irving, feels bad about her part in uh, the abuse of Carrie. And so she asked her boyfriend, Tommy, played by William Catt,
Yeah.
um, who this doesn't have anything really to do with badass women in horror, but did everybody know that William Catt and Amy Irving really dated at
Oh,
one
really?
time in real life? Yeah. And that picture that Sue's mother has on
Mhm.
the side table, you see a picture of William Catt and Amy Irving
Yeah.
together. That is a real picture
Oh.
because that's Amy Irving's real mother that plays her mother in the movie.
Oh, really? Mrs. Snell?
Yeah.
That's her real mom? Oh, I didn't know that either.
And so she had that picture of Amy and William, and that was used in the movie.
Well, I
So
didn't know that. I thought that was something made for the movie.
interesting little tidbits of information for you. Yeah, Priscilla Pointer. TJ says, by the way,
Yeah.
Priscilla Pointer, who played Sue Snell's mom and real life mom of Amy Irving, passed away.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think I'd heard that, TJ. Yeah, which is sad. I always like Priscilla Pointer and stuff, but yeah, she was Amy Irving's real mom. But so she asked Tommy to take Carrie to the prom. She doesn't want to go because she feels like she's done an injustice to Carrie. And she's basically the only one of the girls that is offering to do this for Carrie. So at first, Tommy's resisting. He's like, hey, Sue, I don't want to do this, you know. And
Yeah.
she talks him into it. But then Miss Collins gets involved and she says, you are not going to ask Carrie White to the prom. And Sue's like, Miss Collins, you can't tell us
Yeah.
what to do and what not to do. So basically, Tommy shows up at Carrie's house, and Carrie doesn't want her mother getting up from her nap and finding Tommy there because that would just that would reiterate what she already thinks she knows that Carrie is having sex with all these boys in high school.
Yeah.
So Tommy will not leave. He's like, "Not till you say yes." I think this is one of the sweetest things, even though you've got Margaret White in the background saying, "Carrie, Carrie, where are you? Who's at the door, Carrie?"
Yeah.
But the whole scene, he's like, "Not till you say yes." I love guys that are insistent like that.
Yeah.
He said, "No, I'm not leaving." She's like, "Will you please go?" not till you say yes, you know. And so finally she's like, I'll go, because her mother's coming.
Yeah.
And so we had the whole situation leading up to the prom. We see Carrie going to try on makeup. I guess this was back in the days when you had sample makeup you can put on. Now that COVID has taken
Yeah.
the picture, I don't think they'd be doing anything like that. Even though I'm sure they put out fresh ones and
Yeah.
all that, but
I never liked doing it to begin with.
so we see Carrie putting on the lipstick and stuff and wiping it off because she doesn't like the color and trying a different one. And you
And she's
see
so
her,
innocent looking too
yeah,
when she's doing that, you know.
because you have to know that her mother didn't allow her to have probably perfume or
No.
makeup or anything.
Everything that she's finding out is on her own.
And then we also see a scene of some of the girls getting their hair done in preparation for prom. And they're like, "Did you hear Carrie's going to the prom? Did you hear Tommy's taking Carrie to the prom?" And then they say, "Well, what's she gonna wear? Who, Carrie? A sackcloth?" And and then they just cackle like little hens, just hee
Yeah.
hee, And these are the really nasty girls. And something I could, and I'm not talking about anybody's weight. I don't have any room to talk about anybody's weight. I'm not as small as I could be. But something I never understood was Edie McClurg's character in this. She's not gigantic, but she ain't skinny mini either. And I guess just they accept her because she's part of the clique. I don't know, but she
Yeah.
doesn't get made fun of. In fact, she's as vicious about making fun of Carrie as the rest of
Yeah. Well, that kinda goes back to real life.
them.
That happens in real life as well. So,
Hmm.
from my experience.
It does. It was just something that was always just kind of off
Yeah.
for me. You could understand the, as I like to call them, the
Yeah.
beautiful people.
Yeah, TJ's right, a bully can be any size because I had bullies
They
that,
can be any
you
size, yeah.
know, I was a lot, didn't look the way I do now, you know, but they were, you know, I won't get into it, but it kinda goes back to what you were saying, and I'm like, "Okay."
But I guess what was most confusing for me, not that Edie McClurg's character was a bully,
Mm,
but that the other girls would accept her into their
yeah,
perfect clique. Um, Blissel says kindness is beautiful. You can't hide an ugly
you
soul.
sure can.
That's right. X-Ray brings up a good point. Edie McClurg was probably pissed she lost the role to Sissy Spacey. Yeah, because Edie McClurg was more like the way Carrie was described in Stephen King's
Yeah,
book.
yeah,
But I applaud Sissy Spacey for getting really pissed off at Brian De Palma because he didn't want her to play Carrie. So
yeah,
she went home, she took all her makeup off, she greased up her hair with Vaseline, and she came back to Brian De Palma and she pulled that off. I mean, she was kind of badass behind the scenes too.
yeah,
Sissy Spacek was. Um, so yeah, we have a lot of levels of badass in this. And TJ brought up that Sue forced Tommy to go to the prom. She's badass too. Yeah, we could say that we could even say Chris Hargensen in some cases was a badass. She was not a nice badass, but she was a badass in this. Um, TJ, good point. He says if you agree with the bullies, they don't care what you look like if you just as mean. Good point. I like all these different points of view on things because sometimes I see things a certain way, but when somebody brings out these different points of view, I'm like, yeah, I could see it that
mhm,
way. So Carrie ends up going to the prom with Tommy. And so there's some little snickers here and there from the bullies that see Carrie and her. I think it's a beautiful dress. She makes
yeah,
it herself.
it's like silk and
and it's
It's a
pink,
little
and
mhm.
even though her mother says, "Red," I might have known it'd be red, and she calls her breast dirty pillows. "I can see your
Yeah,
dirty pillows, everyone will," and she says, "They're breasts, they're called breasts, mama."
yeah,
You know, it's because Carrie is learning that what
mhm.
her mother had told her all these years was just simply not true.
Yeah,
And she tells her mother, every woman has them.
yeah,
And so she uses her, because her mother is getting up in her face before Tommy comes to pick her up.
mhm.
And her mother is literally clawing at her face, pulling her hair, punching herself in the face
Yeah,
to get Carrie to stay at home with her. And Carrie just says, "Stop hurting yourself,
yeah,
mama." And she's making Carrie nervous. Carrie's clutching her hair and stuff like this. And finally, Carrie uses the telekinesis on her and she says, "Sit down and shut up." And she throws her mother on the bed and she says, "Don't move, mama, until I'm gone."
mhm.
After Carrie leaves, you see a look. It's complete madness across
Yeah,
Margaret White's face. And she says, "Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live." And you know that that's a bad omen right there. So Carrie does go to prom. She kind of gets accepted into Tommy's little crowd. A couple of his good friends who really are nice to her and stuff.
yeah,
And she gets the ultimate, what turns out to be the not a very good gift, but at the time she thinks this is the most grand thing in the world. Her and Tommy get granted access to be king and queen of the prom.
mhm.
And they go up on the stage, and we know, though, as watchers of the movie, that Chris has devised a plan to humiliate Carrie in front of everybody at the
Yeah.
prom by dumping pig's blood on her.
And
Now,
I wanna say this before you go on, Dana. How demented do you have to
it's
be
a
a high schooler who comes up with a plan like that? Because, they had to sneak into that pig farm or whatever, and I guess killed pig, I guess is what they did. They killed the pig, drank
yeah,
the blood of
they
it,
slaughtered a pig. That
and,
was a hard scene to watch too.
I mean, how demented I mean, I understand pranks and bullying and stuff like that, but that's really taking it that's like psychotic level.
Well, the scene where the pig is slaughtered, where they go to the pig farm
Yeah,
and slaughter the pig, the one boy can't do it. So
yeah,
Billy Nolan's character, played by John
yeah,
Travolta, jumps in there and you don't see anything, but he's like,
you know
"There's
what they're
my
doing.
baby. Yeah, yeah." And then he starts, hitting it with the sledgehammer, I believe. But you see Chris staying to the side, "Do it.
Yeah,
Do it." And it's like she's getting some kind of orgasmic
feel
thrill
yeah,
of watching him kill this poor pig,
mm,
so that they can basically slit its throat
yeah,
and get the blood from it. Um, and so that whole scene is so twisted.
it is, and in the end, it leaves you thinking, who was the real psycho in this, whole thing? Who caused all this?
Mhm.
You know?
And,
So,
I don't wanna get too into, like, school shootings and stuff like that, but see, and nobody has the right to take anybody's
no.
life regardless of what went on. They were the Unless it's self-defense,
Yeah,
okay? But people that have emotional and mental issues,
yeah,
and I know we don't know who those people are all the time, but that is why you don't unmercifully bully someone, because this is the telekinetic
mhm.
equivalent of a school shooting
It is.
to me,
It is.
because When Carrie is humiliated and degraded in front of the whole student body at prom by having blood poured on her as she's being crowned queen of the prom,
Yeah.
it's just like a switch gets flipped.
Hmm.
And do you see the look? And Sissy Spacek, I got to give her total credit for this look. Her eyes get wide. There is nobody home at that point. The only thing she is thinking is, I'm going to take you bastards out. I'm sorry for using that language, but that look says it all. And then you see her head swivel this way and the door slams shut. She swivels in another way, more doors slam shut.
Hmm.
And then people stop laughing. We don't really know how many people are laughing. The main bullies, we know they're laughing. But we also know in Carrie's mind, she's seeing everybody laugh at her.
Yeah.
She's seeing everybody laugh and she loses it.
Yeah.
And the telekinesis completely takes over. So the water hoses start spraying all around.
Yeah.
They spray on electrical equipment because there was a band playing, so they had to have their instruments plugged in and stuff. Guess what? That water's going all over the place. So when a couple of the people grab hold of microphones, one guy gets electrocuted and flipped over against a wall. Stuff catches on fire. That's how the fire starts. So you got complete total mayhem now. You have people storming the doors trying to get out. Carrie's holding them closed with her telekinesis. They can't get out. So, number one, people are going to be burned to death. Okay. Um, you got people getting electrocuted. Miss Collins, this thing from the roof comes down and slices her in two. I mean, it's not real graphic, but blood's coming out of her mouth. She falls
Yeah.
down over top of it. And uh, so Sue had come to the prom to see Carrie get, or had the time of her life, is what she
Yeah.
thought that she was going to do. And instead, she sees this madness of the blood getting dumped on Carrie, and then Carrie just going berserk. So Sue gets thrown out because Miss Collins finds her she's trying to tell her they're going to dump blood on Carrie. They're going to dump blood on Carrie. And Miss Collins ain't having none of it. She throws her out of there. Um, so Sue does get away initially. So the scene that is so chilling is when Carrie walks out of the front of the school
Yeah.
and you can see the flames in the school. You can hear the screams in there. And oh my God, these people are burning alive in here. Meanwhile, Chris and Billy also got away. Well, initially they got away and they're speeding away in the car. They see Carrie walking on the street. She's covered in blood in her prom dress. That's a creepy scene as
Yeah.
well.
It is.
And Chris says, I'm just going to run her down and kill her, you know. So she speeds, she's going right towards Carrie, and Carrie looks at her. That's a great shot of Carrie when she turns to the side and her eyes shift, and that car rolls over and over and over and then bursts into flame. Then Carrie goes home, and it's still not over. She goes home, she washes the blood off, she gets in her nightgown, and you see when she goes into the bathroom, this is creepy too. Her mother is standing in the shadows, kind of
Yeah.
behind the bathroom door. Carrie does not see her. When she comes back out, Margaret reappears and she says, Mama, it was bad, Mama. They laughed at me. And her mother seems to soothe her.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's all Carrie wants. She wants her mother to love her, to
Yeah.
accept her, to comfort her because of this horrible thing that has happened. And what does her mother do? She stabs her in the back, literally.
Yeah.
And then you got the whole creepy scene where Carrie rows down the steps and Margaret is still coming after her, making the sign of the cross, and she's
Yeah.
smiling and she's still got the butcher knife in her hand. And Carrie loses it again. We have a second time where she just loses all sanity
Yeah.
and throws all these kitchen implements into her mother. Now, in the book, she just makes her heart stop.
Yeah.
She says, "Your heart's slowing down, Mama. The heart's slowing down."
Yeah.
But I think Stephen King said he liked the way Brian De
Yeah.
Palma
I
kind of
do
spiced
too.
this up because as she is dying, as Margaret is dying, she's giving off orgasmic sounds. If
Yeah.
you don't believe me, watch the film. It's like it's a relief for her that this is finally all going to be over.
Yeah.
And then Carrie realizes what she's done to her mother. She screams, she pulls her off the wall. Uh, and where do they go? They go to the closet, the
Yeah.
prayer closet. And that's where Carrie dies. But and I know this is probably I was trying to highlight the big moments in the
Yeah.
film. Um, but is there anything that you'd like to add to that,
Oh,
Candace?
yeah. I just want to get my take on Carrie because Carrie is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's definitely in my top 5 favorite horror films of all time. Um, Probably my top 10 favorite movies of all time. One of my favorite books, probably my second or third favorite Stephen King book, I'd say. I just love Carrie. I think Sissy Spacek, I think that she was the perfect choice,
Mhm.
um, for the character. I think that she pulled it off fantastic. Like her performance in that, and Piper Laurie's performance as Carrie's mother
Yes.
is chef's kiss. I think that it is perfect. I think Sissy Spacek, she's one of my favorite actresses of all time as well. Like in Coal Miner's Daughter, she was
Uh,
perfect for that. Perfect. I think that when she takes on a role, she really she's believable.
mhm.
She's believable. Just going back to Coal Miner's Daughter, if you've never seen it, if you know who Loretta Lynn is, check it out. You would believe she was Loretta Lynn.
Yeah.
She does her own singing. She sounds just like her. I mean, like I said, chef's kiss. I think that she's one of the greatest actresses of all time. Um, when she becomes, I call it entranced, when she blacks out
Mm,
and her powers are at their maximum level, and she is going into full out mode when she's there at the prom, whenever she gets humiliated um, by these cruel people. Because if you've been bullied as a kid or as a young adult, or any time in your life, there has been times when you have been put in that situation where people are laughing at you. Somebody has done something, and that feeling of shock comes over your body, and you kind of go into your own mind, and everybody and everything around you kind of sucks in. And it doesn't matter if everybody's laughing at you or not, you feel like they are.
mhm.
And they pulled that off perfectly with the movie. Now, the book is fantastic as well. I love the book. I mean, it really goes into detail. If you've
Right.
watched Carrie the movie, read the book if you've never read it. It goes into a lot more detail about her powers and her finding out about these powers and stuff like that. So I highly recommend that. If you love the movie, you've never checked out the book, read the book. Even if you don't like reading, you will love it, and I'm sure Dana will agree.
Yeah. I love the
And
book too.
I mean, this movie is just it's from the start to the end is just it's incredible. And like I said, even Piper Laurie, I know we're not talking about her, but her character is so demented.
Mhm.
It's so demented. She pulls that off perfectly. I mean, she is this religious nut, as we called her, but she's possessed. She is evil. She's not good.
Mm,
Nothing of her is good. Everything about her is just evil and demented and psychotic. And Carrie is this flower who has yet to blossom. I mean, she's just a pure innocent. She knows nothing. Everything that she has to find out, she has to find out on her own. She's been led to believe all these lies that she is a sinful person just for being a woman, just for having breast or having a menstrual cycle. She is made to believe that she's just this horrible bitch of a person, excuse my language, but that's how her mother makes her feel, like she's just a scourge, like she is a unsanitary scourge on earth, and that she is evil when her mother is the one that is evil. And these people, these kids that are torturing Carrie, they're the true psychotic people in this. It's not Carrie. Carrie
Mhm.
was pushed beyond her limits. She possesses this gift that could, probably been used for good if she would have been, in a different life. But unfortunately, it was Carrie's downfall. But
Mm.
not on the fault of her own, but for the fault of the people that were around her. Carrie was not evil. Carrie was not nothing wrong with her. I mean, she was a young girl who had this gift, who could have been a wonderful person. But that movie, the book, shows how somebody can be brought down by the actions of others and in their environment. I see too many times, and here recently, people going to the extreme at schools or to themselves. I've seen kids getting younger and younger taking their own lives because of bullies, taking others' lives because of bullies. It is a real problem, and that is what, like Dana said, whether you believe in telekinesis or not, the movie is real. This is really stuff that happens. Maybe not the telekinesis, it's just according to what you believe in. But like she said, she likened this to what happens at schools, what happens at public outings or events. And that makes it scary, because this is real stuff that can really happen. And it does, in different ways, maybe. But and I just, to me, like Dana said, she probably isn't badass in the sense of, hey, I'm fighting this people, I'm doing something good for society, but she was badass in the way that, in Carrie's own way, she took care of the problem.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah,
so yeah,
exactly.
I could go on and on about this movie and the book as well. Like I said, it's chef's kiss.
Mhm.
If I want to use some of these new terms that
I
kids
like
use these
that, I like that term.
it's
I
perfect.
one other point I wanted to bring up before we move on to the next one is that as a kid who I wasn't bullied the way kids are bullied
Yeah,
now, but I was made fun of. I
yeah.
was picked on.
I think everybody has.
And I think all of us in here today can understand this, that when I watched Carrie for the first time and I saw Sissy Spacek's portrayal of Carrie,
Yeah,
I mean, forgive me for saying this, guys and gals, but I had a sense of, you go, girl, you get them for
yeah,
doing this to
yeah,
you. And I was like, I have been there. I have
yeah,
dealt with that. Maybe not on
definitely.
the level that she did, but it hurt nonetheless. It makes you feel, and Candace has used this term before, and I think it's a perfect term, less than.
That's that. Yeah.
And so it seemed to give me power, not telekinesis, but power to deal with things that
Hmm.
were going on around me because I saw this. Not that I wanted to go out and kill anybody, not that I wanted to go kill my aggressors. It's just that it empowered me mentally,
Yeah.
that, hey, I made it through this.
Hmm.
And if I made it through this, what else can I make it through? I'm not asking for stuff to happen to me, but I'm more powerful for absorbing the good out of this film. And people might think, "Boy, God dang, you're weird," but but I think Candace understands what I'm talking about here. Um, Blissful, you bring up a good point that Carrie had no nurturing.
No.
She did not have that. She had no
Mm,
father. Her father left when she was young.
yeah. And I
And
think that either, her mother was that way to begin with and it pushed the father away, or she was that way kind of, and then whenever the father left, it made her just
mm,
lose her mind.
well, there's a scene
You
in the
know,
movie where she says, "The devil entered your father and carried him
yeah,
off," and that's her version of what
her version.
happened. And
Yeah,
Carrie says, "No, Mama, he ran away with a woman.
yeah,
Everybody knows that."
yeah, yeah,
See, even Carrie knew it,
yeah.
but Margaret was so delusional
She was
that,
just
"Oh, the
delusional.
devil must have, carried him off,"
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah.
Um,
I think that this movie also should be a cautionary tale for anybody who's wanting to go and bully somebody. I think it should be shown to kids. Say, hey, listen, you go bully somebody, and you could push somebody to the limits.
you could
But
have an edited version and not show, like, all the boobs and full frontal in the shower scene and
yeah,
still get the point across, I
yeah,
think.
but nothing will ever take that away. There's probably been bullying going on since the beginning of time. It's not going to stop. But because I don't know. It's just it's a movie where you have a killer, where Carrie is a killer, she's killing people. She
Mhm.
is. But you sympathize with her. You sympathize. And to me, it confuses you because you don't want to sympathize with somebody that's going around killing somebody, but you do with her.
But
And
you see her whole
you
background and
see it. Yeah.
what she went through.
Yeah.
And I think if people would, and I don't think this is going to ever happen 100%, but if people that have the potential to be bullies would think about, what am I doing to this person if I bully them? What is their home life like?
Yeah. Well, really honestly, a lot of bullies they bully because their home lives are not good,
Yeah.
because their lives in general are not good, and that's the way that they deal with that is by, you know, causing that pain, uh,
Mhm.
onto others. But, Carrie in this, she was a innocent, she didn't have any nurturing, and she didn't have, somebody to help her bloom. Like I said, she was like a unblossomed flower. Because she seems so pure to me. Does she you Dana? So when she goes ballistic at the end, when she goes blacks out, because this honestly, mental health, this film is a poster child for that, because her mental health just snapped. She had taken so much that she just totally lost all control. And that is something that can happen in real life with people. If your mental health is not taken care of, if you are put in situations to where you are having a hard home life, a hard life at school, in your environment, it's a cautionary tale all around. And you know, I don't know. I guess that's why it's one of my favorites as well. I don't like I can't like feel like the whole killer aspect of it, but you can relate to Carrie
Yes.
in some way or another.
I think that's what makes that film special to me, is that I can relate to Carrie
Yeah.
on a certain level. Uh, Uncle Bill, no, I would never kill anybody from my past. And I'm not just saying that because I'm on camera. I'm saying, no, I could not do that unless I did just lose my mind.
Yeah.
If I had my conscious, all my faculties about me, then no, I would not kill anybody from my past. Because let me tell you something about, all bullies don't change, but some bullies do change. And a lot of the people I remember bullying me in school and making fun of me and picking on me, they're some of the nicest people I could ever talk to now. I don't know what happened, but I'm thankful that they changed.
I'm glad that you had that experience, Dana.
I mean, not everybody changed. Some people were the same jerks that they
Yeah.
were when we were in school, but the majority of them, and I say majority in as females.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't really ever have guys pick on me that much. It was mainly girls
Mhm.
picking on me. I got along better with guys than I did
I
girls.
did
I
too. Yeah.
always did. But a lot of, I'd say at least 80% of the girls that were jerks to me in school have become some of the nicest people ever.
Yeah.
And I guess that's just what happens with growing up sometimes and becoming a parent yourself, or, and having your, maybe some of them had their kids go through troubles at school. And maybe that was the key. I don't know. Maybe God was, sitting there on their shoulder, your conscience, because God, I believe God is what we call our conscience,
Yeah.
um, or He's a part of it. Um, Blissel says, "You be those people aren't worth jail time." They're really nasty people, and if they're still nasty, no, they're not. They're
Yeah.
definitely not worth jail time. But I could talk about Carrie all day and all
I
night
could too.
because and maybe we'll do a show just
Yeah.
on the many, many aspects of
Yeah.
Carrie. Um, Blair, we did talk about Sigourney Weaver, the character of Ellen Ripley. We did talk about that at the start of the stream,
Yeah,
but
and I
you
wish Chris was here because he could talk and talk and talk and talk. Like I said, that's his favorite, I think, woman of horror. So, he could sit and talk forever. So we're
is
gonna probably have to do
he
he's at the flea
on
market.
Play Market? Okay, I
Yeah.
was gonna say
It's
I think I
Sunday,
can
so
send him the link if he wanted to come on. But I didn't hear from him today, and I figured, yeah, he
we're
must.
gonna have to do another one of these.
Oh, definitely,
Yeah.
We will do maybe multiple ones. But to move on to the next movie and the next character, now people may disagree with me on this one too, but like keep in mind, I said these aren't all good people. Okay, Annie Wilkes in Misery. She's a badass in a bad way in this
Yeah, definitely.
because
Yeah.
she abducts a writer. He has a car accident. She abducts him, finds out he's her favorite
Mhm.
author of all time. But you piss Annie Wilkes off, you got to pay the piper
Yeah.
because she is one of these, extremist nut jobs
Yeah.
that thinks that these writers are only writing books for them.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Delusional.
takes a personal, takes it as a personal attack if you kill off a character in a book, which is exactly what Paul Sheldon does in this. The writer, he kills off the Misery Chastain character. But what's wrong with this picture is that Paul is incapacitated. Remember, he's been in this horrific car accident.
Yeah.
He's basically at her mercy.
Yeah.
But when he pisses her off by killing off the Misery character, she loses her shit. And what do you want, Steve?
It's in the Bible.
I don't know why he's been saying that, but he's been saying that this weekend. But anyway, sorry for the dog noises. But Sammy, you need to be quiet. I can't concentrate. Um, Batman says she can do crazy all by her cockadoodie self. Yeah, exactly. Um, and cockadoodie is a word that Annie Wilkes uses, and you're like, I was
Where'd that come from?
I was thinking when I was reading the novel and when I watched the movie, directed expertly by Rob Reiner. I
Yeah.
think Rob Reiner did a fantastic job with this, with,
Meathead.
with the source material. And Cockadoodie, when I heard that, I was like, what kind of woman is this? Well, obviously she's crazy. No, she ain't no Christian woman. Good gracious. I don't think the Bible's even mentioned, and I think she mentions
Mm-mm.
God, but it's in a demented way. She says, "I asked God about you" at one point, and she's talking to Paul, and he's like scared out of his mind because this is a crazy
Yeah.
woman. And she said, "I asked God about you, and He said that you must show him the way." Okay, I'm like, I don't know what God you've been talking to, honey, but I don't think it's God. So
She's on the same wavelength as Carrie's mom.
it's Margaret White. Her and Margaret White have been having tea together or something. So we not only find out that Annie is crazy, that she means bodily harm to Paul if he
Yeah.
doesn't rectify and bring Misery Chastain back from the dead, just for her, not for anybody else, but just for her. That if he doesn't do these things, then she's going to take his ass out, basically. Because again, keep in mind, he's incapacitated. There's the scene where she pulls back the covers and shows him his legs, and he can't even look at his legs. They're so bad. He's on pain medication, and any little whim, if she wants to put him out completely by doping him up, she will do that. And
Yeah.
she does it multiple times in the film. She hobbles him at one point. This is how sadistic the woman is. She finds out that he's gotten out of the room while she's been gone because she keeps it locked. He finds a bobby pin. Everybody knows what a bobby pin is,
Yeah.
right? I guess it had fell out of Annie's hair at some point. And he uses it to pick the lock. He goes out and he even says, "You crazy bitch," at one point because he picks up the phone thinking he can call somebody and there's no dial tone. So he picks up the whole entire phone, turns it over because it evidently seems like there's nothing inside the phone. And he sits it back down and says, "You crazy bitch." And I'm thinking, yep, she's a crazy bitch. That's exactly right, Paul. He also finds her scrapbook. And we find out that she killed babies. She killed other people because she was a nurse in a hospital,
Yeah.
especially on the maternity ward. And Lord knows how many babies she killed. And I don't know if it's ever insinuated that maybe she has Munchausen's
Syndrome.
syndrome or what it is, or if she's just batshit crazy and
I
she.
think like that Munchausen syndrome by proxy.
Mhm.
Yeah. I
So
think she
she
just gets off on the fact of people being at her begging need
playing
and
God, basically. She can take people's lives at,
yeah.
split second. It gives her godlike power. And I think that Annie Wilkes was a character that never felt like she had much power.
No.
So to be able to snuff out a life just like that gave her some sense of
It
power.
fed her sadistic need of of
Mhm.
of being able to do something, being able to control a situation, I think.
Mhm. And so uh to get back to the hobbling part, when Annie finds out that Paul has been out multiple times, and she drugs him before this, and he comes out of it, and he's still in a haze, and she's like, "You've been out of your room," and she's very methodical about this. As crazy as she is, she's methodical. She says, "At first, I couldn't figure out how you did it. But then I found your key," and she holds up the bobby pin. And remember, he had hidden a knife under the mattress. Well, she found his key. She also found that knife. And we know that. But he doesn't know. The character of Paul doesn't know it. And you see him like
Yeah.
with his hand under the mattress. And she pulls out the knife. She said, "You looking for this?" And you're like, Paul, you're screwed. You are screwed.
Terrifying situation that he's
Yes, very terrifying. And so she starts explaining the process of hobbling and what hobbling was in historical terms. And she talks about the Kimberley diamond mines and basically the slaves that they would have working in the mines. They treated the people as slaves in the
Yeah.
mines and made them work for them. And she said they would try to escape. And do you know what they did to make sure they never escape? And he looks scared. She said, "Oh, don't worry, they didn't kill them. They did a process called hobbling to make sure they could never escape again."
Oh my gosh.
Then she brings out that daggone sledgehammer, and it's
Mm.
like, "Oh, no. No, 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 no. She's not gonna do that." But she is, and he's begging her. He's
Mhm.
pleading with her. And we know she's not gonna listen to him. He says, "Annie, whatever you're thinking of doing, please don't do it." And she says, "Trust me, it's for the best." You watch her raise that sledgehammer up and
Mhm.
knocks right into Paul's foot. And I know it's fake. I know it's fake,
It's
but
one
they
of the
make
worst
it
things to
look
watch.
real. My
Oh my
dad cannot watch this. He watched it one time. He can't watch that anymore.
Mhm.
And you watch the foot just go sideways. And I felt pain.
Especially with my foot being right now where I have that
Oh,
footballer's
no.
ankle
Yes.
right now. I can't even walk on mine, so I could only imagine the pain that would put somebody through.
And we don't even need to see the second foot. We've
Mm.
seen the first foot,
It's
and
enough.
so she heads for the second one, and you just hear him screaming and see his
My
face.
God.
But it's like, no. Steve's playing his TV kind of loud, so I'm gonna. I try to have as few distractions while I'm doing these streams as I can. I don't know if he's watching a concert or he's watching a movie, but there's it's good music, but it's kind of distracting for right now. Um, but so Annie does all these things to Paul, which culminates in Paul realizing I got to get away from this crazy bitch or she's going to kill me. So he devises a plan to finish up the new Misery novel, but Annie's never going to read it. She's never going to read the end of it because he's planning on taking her out. But in typical, like, this isn't a slasher movie film, but it's not that kind of film. But Annie basically, she's so crazy, she refuses to die for the longest time. This whole battle towards the end of the film is relentless. You know, he hits her with the typewriter. He stuffs burning pages of the manuscript into her mouth. Um, he does all of these things, and she's still coming after him.
Yeah. She's like a I don't know, like a supernatural, like she's got some kind of supernatural entity inside of her that's keeping her because any normal person would, especially the build and that she was. I don't see her getting up from this. That
No,
happened to me, I'd be laid out.
I would. He even hits her in the face with that cast iron pig that she has. I mean, and she looks bad. Like it don't even look like Kathy Bates. I don't know what it looks
I mean,
like.
she must have some kind of adrenaline rush or something that's keeping her going.
Yeah, exactly. Um, so Candace, anything you want to add about the Annie Wilkes character?
I love Misery. Yeah, that's I mean, it's got one of the hardest scenes to watch in a film, I think. I always cringed at the thought of anything with your ankles or feet or anything like that. It kills me. But Kathy Bates, another one of my favorite actresses of all time. Anything that she does is awesome. And she plays that character so well. I love her in Dolores Claiborne. That's not really a badass woman of horror or anything like that, but
Well, we can definitely talk about badass women in movies.
yeah, yeah. I love her character in that as well. But my grandpa, not the horror loving grandpa, my other grandpa, my Papa Donnie, um, he loved Misery,
Mhm.
and he would thought it was funny to bring that up all the time. My grandma would cringe just at the thought of that scene where he gets his ankles or feet done that way, and my grandpa would always tease her with it.
Uh-huh.
He said, what would you do if somebody tried to do you that way?" And she said, "Would you shut up? Bring that up. I don't want to think about that." And he just laugh, you know. So I always think of my papa, Donnie, whenever I think about Misery, because he loved it. He loved that movie for some odd reason. I think he liked it so he could tease people with it.
My
Uh,
mom always liked it. My dad always liked it too. It's just the hobbling scene Dad had a problem.
yeah, it was crazy. Um, but no, I just love it, and she's not badass in the sense of that she's a good person.
Right.
She's badass in the sense that she's crazy and she's not stopping. She puts up a good fight. Let's just say that.
She even kills the sheriff in this. The first time I
Man,
saw that and she blew a hole in the sheriff, I was like, holy crap.
it's like she is, like I said, like she's possessed with some supernatural entity, like some kind of like Michael Myers type of shit or something. Because she
Mhm.
really is. If that would be just like a normal person, she would
Yeah.
have been gone a long time ago. But she
Oh, yeah.
persevered and went through, and she put up a fight. So I can see where you can bring her into the mix. You know, she's not in a good way. It's not in a good way, but she still fits into that category, I guess. And good book too.
Yeah, excellent book. And like I said, Rob Reiner took that source material and he improved on it in some areas, but he
Hmm.
stuck pretty close to Stephen
Yeah.
King's original source material as
And
well.
growing up, I never thought that Rob Reiner would. The first time I ever realized that Rob Reiner was a like director and all that good stuff was from Spinal Tap. He's in
Right,
it. He's
exactly.
in it.
Yeah.
Then I found out that he, helped make it and stuff like that. And because I know him as Meathead, from
Yeah.
All in the Family. And
Mhm.
I just thought that was the coolest thing. And just to see him take a movie like Misery, take a, from the book and make it into the kind of, would you call Misery? That's like one of the probably most well-known horror films. When it's a Stephen
Yeah.
King adaptation. So, I mean, it's a classic. He made
Mhm.
it, turned it into a classic film that people love to watch. And you don't necessarily have to be a horror fan
No,
to
no.
enjoy that film. Like I said, my grandpa he wasn't a horror fan or anything like that. Um, but he loved Misery. He liked it because it's a thriller, I guess, kind of aspect to it,
Mhm.
and just some psycho because that's real life stuff that could happen.
Yeah.
People's crazy out here with get obsessed with stuff,
Mhm.
and could you just imagine being a celebrity? Because look at all these celebrities that have had stalkers come into their home. Some
Yeah.
have even been killed by them, unfortunately. Who was the actress, the TV actress from the I think the 80s
Are you
who
talking about Rebecca Schaefer?
maybe she was killed by a stalker, right?
Mhm.
And no, I'm thinking something different. Poltergeist, her boyfriend killed her, right?
Oh, that was Dominic Dunn. Yeah, her
Yeah,
crazy
her boyfriend.
boyfriend killed her
Mhm.
out in the yard, I think.
My mom and dad would always talk about it, and it's probably who you just said about some show. If my mom was watching this or something, she'd probably be saying, "That's
I
who I'm
think
talking about."
Rebecca Schaefer was on that show, My Sister Sam.
Hmm. It might have been.
Anybody
It might have
remembers
been.
that?
But just look at all I think even Paula Abdul maybe, or there's so many people have been, stalked, have been, have these crazy fans that come up and how scary that would be to have somebody obsessed with you. It is
Mhm.
scary. I've
Oh,
experienced it
yeah.
myself. I've went through that kind of situation, and it is not fun. It's very unsettling. But to be kind of just thrusted into the arms of one of these people and then being at their mercy, that would be even more terrifying. So I love it. I think it messes with your mind though.
Yeah. And I one last thing I want to bring up about misery before we move forward, and I've talked about this before, but the hobbling scene in the movie is very different than in the book, because in the book she cuts his foot off. And I asked this one other stream, do you think it's worse, the hobbling scene the way it's portrayed in the movie or the book? And most people said in the movie it was worse.
Yeah, I think
And
so.
I agree with that.
I think so. I really do. It seems, I don't know. It just seems more painful to me. Does it to you? I don't
Because
know why, but it
the
does.
thing about it being cut off is it's done, it's
It's
over with.
gone. Yeah, and you only have that, you might have that phantom sensation of pain from
Yeah.
where that foot was, but it's not like the foot that's there that's been just totally demolished, swelling and just
And you're just having to look
inflammation.
at it be turned sideways in an unnatural way.
It's crazy. It's really crazy. It's like I said, it really plays it into your psyche, into your mind. And I think that's what makes it a great film, even a great book, you
Mhm.
know. But yeah, I agree. I think the worst would definitely be the way, especially because you see it visually
Yeah, exactly.
there. So and so it kind of puts that into your mind. When you read the book, you just have to think about it. But whenever you're seeing it there on film and seeing what it looks like, you're like, that's crazy.
Exactly. So moving on to the next one, and some people might consider this a horror film, some people might not consider this a horror film. But Clarice Starling in
I
The
know you was going
Silence
to
of the
say that.
Lambs.
That's
Uh,
the one I want to talk about next. Anyway, you
so
read my
do
mind.
you want to kick it off and talk, give your perspective on
Well, I'll
that
let you
one?
because you kind of more describe things at first, and then I'll give my
Okay.
perspective because this is my favorite horror film of all time.
So Silence of the Lambs has been one of my favorite just films in general of all time. And I think part of what makes this film work for me is Jodie Foster playing Clarice Starling in
Mhm.
this. I think Jodie Foster was the perfect person to play
Yeah,
this. Her
definitely.
demeanor, her uh, the accent, all of that works for this particular film. Anthony Hopkins is also another big part of. I know
Yeah,
we're talking focusing on women pretty much, but if you didn't have Anthony Hopkins playing Hannibal Lecter, that dynamic between him and
yeah,
Clarice
yeah.
would not have worked.
No,
Then there's also a third person in this, and this
mhm.
is Buffalo Bill.
Ted Levine. Yeah,
Ed Levine's
I love him.
fantastic, fantastic, and I've
Mhm.
seen him play good guys too.
Yeah,
But he will forever be cemented in my brain as the
yeah,
Buffalo Bill
yeah.
character. And we
Oh
could have a
wait, was
whole
she
other
that great big fat person?
and there's so many lines that he has that are
Yeah,
so quotable in this. We could have a whole stream just on Silence of the Lambs talking about Buffalo Bill, and who knows, we might.
yeah.
Um, so, but to get back to the character of Clarice, Clarice is a very damaged woman
Hmm.
in the film. And by damaged, I mean she suffered the loss of her father, the only parent she had at the time at a young age.
And he was a police officer, right?
Yes. And she was shipped off to stay with family who kind of mistreated her
Yeah.
and made her work real hard on their farm and stuff like that. And she had to witness the slaughtering of animals. Hence the title, The Silence of the Lambs.
Mhm.
There's this whole and it concerns Hannibal Lecter, getting her to feed him
Yeah.
information, which she was told not to do, but
Yeah. He
she
has
ends
his ways.
yeah, he has his ways of prizing this
Mhm.
information out of you. So a story emerges of after Clarice's father is killed in the line of duty, and we see her at the funeral. We see her seeing him in the casket and all of that.
Yeah.
And then she proceeds to talk about how she was shipped off to family who didn't treat her very well and made her work real hard on their farm and forced her to witness the slaughtering of all these animals. She got a love for one of the lambs that was going to be slaughtered. And she tried to help this lamb escape, and it just would not come with her. So she tried to get it to escape. The family members caught up with her. They brought her back to the farm, and she describes the screaming
Yeah.
of the lamb as it was slaughtered. That is one of the hardest scenes I've ever had to witness in a film. And if you don't believe me, if you haven't seen Silence of the Lambs, sit down and watch that film. When you get to that part, you must have nerves of steel or a heart of steel or something to hear her talk about that and not have some kind of emotional response to it. Because I was just devastated listening to that.
Yeah.
So not only is she having to pour out her heart to Hannibal Lecter so he will help her find Buffalo Bill. Quid pro quo, that is something that is mentioned during the film
Yeah.
a lot. You give me something, I will give you something in return. And I just remember Anthony Hopkins saying that as Hannibal Lecter. Quid pro
Whenever you said
quo.
that, I could hear him say that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
quid pro quo, Clarice.
Yeah.
And he just says it so sadistically.
Yeah.
Um, it's just fantastic movie
It
overall.
is.
Um, but then we have her going up against Buffalo Bill during the final
Yeah.
minutes of the film. And here's where it gets kind of the anxiety, the suspense is very
Mhm.
heightened because her co-workers, the SWAT team and all of this stuff, other FBI members, they go to the wrong house. They are led to the wrong house.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Clarice is in Buffalo Bill's house.
Yeah.
Buffalo Bill has turned off all the lights and only he can see
His
her.
night vision.
Yeah, he has night vision. She can't see a hand in front of her face. So it's very unnerving.
Yeah.
But what does Clarice do? She is so resourceful in this, and she winds up coming out on top in
Yeah.
all of this. And that is why I think she's a badass.
Yeah.
Is not because she's like necessarily kicking ass and taking names, but
Mhm.
she's very, very resourceful in this
Yeah.
film. And she keeps her ass from getting killed in this film too, and helps them, you know, get rid of, Uncle Bill. I'm thinking about Uncle Bill. Buffalo Bill. Sorry, Uncle Bill, if you're still in here. You're not like Buffalo Bill. Buffalo Bill isn't taken into custody. He is killed.
Yeah.
And it's due to Clarice being able to escape his
Yeah.
clutches until help can get there
Mhm.
to help her dispatch this guy. Um, so um, I know I'm going through some of these a little bit faster, but that's because we could be on here all night and me and Candace wouldn't get anything else done today. Um, but Candace, I'm going to take myself out of the stream because I got to run to the restroom. But
Okay.
I'll let Candace take the reins here and she can give her thoughts on Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah, Silence of the Lambs, and like Dana said, some people don't consider Silence of the Lambs a horror film. That was something that me and Chris kind of debated whenever I first started dating him because Silence of the Lambs is my favorite horror film of all time. I love it. I love the book. And I love everything about the film. I've watched it so many times that I can play it in my head. Just whenever Dana was sitting there describing everything, I could see everything that she was saying and could hear, the voices of what she was, saying and stuff. So Clarice, she's this trainee for the FBI. She's got a past where, she's she had a hard life, which a lot of people do. But she takes interest in this case, and then whenever she goes and meets Hannibal Lecter and Anthony Hopkins, he absolutely crushes that role. I think he's because you want to because he's this brilliant guy. He's brilliant, just absolutely so intelligent. He's just a genius, but he's apparently, not apparently, he's crazy. Um, but he has a way about him that he can get what he wants. He just mental manipulation. He can manipulate people just by his words, to kind of do what he wants them to do, and that's how he kind of gets into the mind of Clarice. Because when she goes and meets him, they tell her not to give him any kind of information. Don't because they know how he is. They know what he does. And when she sits down there, I don't think she's planning at first to give him any kind of information, but I think she's just kind of mesmerized by Hannibal Lecter at this point to where she just kind of falls into his trap, I guess, as you could say, because he does a quid pro quo. You tell me because she's trying to get information out of him because they're trying to figure out about these murders and stuff like that, and so whenever he kind of just manipulates her into giving all that information that because he wants to get into her mind, and that's his whole thing. He gets into the minds of people. Just by his words alone, he can really set you off and get into because like I said, he's a genius. He knows people. He knows what's going on just by what you tell him and by what he sees. But like I said, Clarice, like how Dana said, just kind of, mirroring what she said. Clarice really shows how tough she is there whenever she meets James Gum or, Buffalo Bill, because he's a really complex guy, and Hannibal Lecter knows him. He was his patient. He knowed who this was. And they had been finding these moths and stuff, these death head moths in the victims, like in the throat, and that shows some pretty graphic stuff, with the victims who have had their back skin taken off and finding the moth's head, the death's head moth in the throat, the cocoon or whatever. And he cares for these creatures, Buffalo Bill does. He has this whole thing down in the basement of his house, this house was this old lady's house who he basically stole from her. He killed her. Mm-hmm. And whenever, I think it's during the night vision scene, you see that old lady in the bathtub down in the basement. She's been sitting there. That's one of the grossest things that you could ever think about or see. And, it's complex because you not only have Hannibal Lecter, and I know this is going off the whole badassness, but I'm just kind of, if you've never seen Silence of the Lambs, well, I'm pretty sure everybody's probably seen it, but you not only have Hannibal Lecter, who is this genius killer, and he's got some pretty badass scenes too. You want to talk about men that's badass? He can really, his scenes where he goes, and shows what he can do is pretty badass, I would say. But then you also have this Buffalo Bill character who is their stick, I guess, is what you can say, is building a suit out of this overweight women's skin. He wants like a size 14. He looks at their is it Catherine is the girl that he kidnaps there, and Precious, the whole scene between Precious and and her whenever she gets the dog, and we all love dogs, and that's
Oh,
the same dog that was in the Burbs, and I think Batman Returns, and um, but yeah, I love this movie. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. It is my favorite horror movie of all time. I consider it horror most definitely, but like I said, like and Dana said, some people may not consider it horror. I don't see how it couldn't be horror, but
right.
because it is. It to me as a little girl before I ever watched it, I was terrified of it. I had heard about it. My grandpa liked it. He watched it, and I just had heard about how, this guy's eating people's faces off. It just terrified me. But whenever I watched it for the first time, I instantly fell in love with it. And I had to go get the book. I had to read it. I said, I have to have more of this. Because Clarice inspired me so much through that, because she proved there at the end that she was cut out for that role, that she was trying hard. She was a trainee, so she wanted that job. She wanted to be a part of that FBI. And she took the bull by the horns and went through all this crap, but she won in the end.
Mhm.
So
And she
great,
had to go up against men in this too.
yeah,
I forgot to mention that.
men who were very, very skilled at what they were doing. Look at, and when they made Buffalo Bill, they took out all these, everybody knows the story. They took out all these different real life serial killers, Ed Gein, Ted Bundy. They used aspects of a lot of these serial killers, like how he like faked an arm injury and needed help into the getting that couch into the van. That was kind of like a Ted Bundy throwback, and how he like the skin, like a Ed Gein, and it's just there's a lot that goes into this film.
Mhm.
But Clarice, her, because you know she looks like this little petite woman, who cannot defend for herself, but she shows the hey, if you know what you're doing, if it doesn't matter what size you are, it doesn't matter what you look like, you can fend for yourself. Definitely.
Mhm.
She does in this film and the book.
And you see her near the beginning of the film, you see her on a obstacle course, a
Yeah.
training course, and this is a tough woman here. She may look little and unassuming, but she means business. And
Mhm.
the part about there are men in this film that belittle her. That's
Yeah,
one thing about Hannibal Lecter. He never belittles
no,
Clarice.
it doesn't.
They're on the same level. Psychologically,
Yes.
they're on the same
Yeah.
level.
And you kind of sense a understanding for one another.
A
You
respect.
kind of get respect. You kind of get this sense of, hey, we're into each other's minds. Because
Mhm.
he not only gets into her mind, she kind of gets into his mind as well. So, and that's why he trusts in her to give her more information about this Jane Gum, this Buffalo Bill character.
Mhm.
And one of my favorite scenes is whenever she goes to the storage unit, and that car is there, and she unearths the head, in the jar. And that
Yeah.
was one of the scenes that I always stood out to me. And she's shocked,
Yeah.
but she's tough. Because
Mhm.
if that was me, I'd be clawing to get out. I'd be clawing to get out of there, and but it shows that her mental state is that
Yeah.
she is preparing to go up and to battle this
Mhm.
entity, which is Buffalo Bill. Like, she's wanting this to stop. All these women are getting murdered, and she knows that she is destined. I
Mhm.
think. I think she knows she's destined to put a stop to this,
Right.
which I love.
Okay. So what I'm going to do here, because we're fast reaching the 2 hour mark, which I didn't plan on going much over 2 hours in case it got to that point. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna pick 2 more for me and Candace to discuss, and then if Candace has anything that she wants to bring up that we didn't discuss today, and then I'll save the rest of these for I'm just going to tell y'all it's going to be a combo show the next time we do one of these. It'll be half badass women in horror and half just badass women in film
Yeah,
of
because
any genre. Because we
there's some
cover
that
a
I
lot.
want to talk. I don't think that that's horror, even though I can see not horror aspects, but I can see people who likes horror.
Mhm.
They would like these films, but I said I'm sure me and Dana do another one, so I want to save those for that time.
So we can, if you want to. I'm not trying to put you on the spot here, Candace, because we're on camera. But if for the next Friday Foolish, which we're planning on doing on Fridays, I like doing this. I like switching it up a little bit.
Yeah,
And I may go ahead and use the intro and stuff that I had for this one just because I like it because it's something different. Um, but how would you feel about doing that combo show for Friday Foolish?
that'd be fine. That'd be fine. That way, we're still in the theme. You know how like we did the collectible show.
Yeah.
We kind of did a part one, part two.
And then
That way,
we probably will do another one of those at some
yeah.
point as
That
well.
way we're still in our element and we can still, kind of carry it over like a two-parter. So yeah, I can see us doing several of these. I mean, there's a
Oh
lot
my
of,
gosh, yeah.
especially if you expand it from not just horror, but just any kind of film.
Mhm.
There's a lot that I would like to talk about, definitely.
So, I want to bring up a couple of characters from this particular franchise, and that's the Nightmare on Elm Street
Oh,
franchise.
definitely.
Okay. So, the first one I want to bring up is Nancy Thompson,
Mhm. Mhm.
played by Heather Langenkamp in the first and third films, and New Nightmare as
Yeah.
well, technically. Um, but let's focus on the first film in particular. I definitely think that Nancy is a badass.
Yeah.
And why? Because she never, at any point in this film, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, I'll accept that. Um, but at no point do I ever feel like she just lays down and waits for Freddie to take her out.
No. No.
And she never, like, she tries to save her friends, it's kinda in vain. She tries to save her boyfriend, that's in vain. But when it comes down to it, the only person that she can save is herself.
Yeah.
And so not only does she create an elaborate set of booby traps in this,
Yeah.
I love the booby trap thing, and
Yeah.
I guess most of that credit has to go to Wes Craven for coming up with that because the booby trap thing was something that Wes Craven used in other films as well, including Deadly Blessing.
Mhm.
If you've seen Deadly Blessing, you've seen Nightmare on Elm Street, you have seen the same sort of booby trap setups.
Kinda Home Alone's it before Home Alone was even around.
The horror version of Home Alone,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. Um, but not only does she do that, but she figures it all out.
Mhm.
She's smart, a
She
smart
is very
woman.
intelligent. Yeah.
She figures out that their screams, their fear was what gave Freddie energy.
Yeah.
And if she turns her back on him and says, "All right, dude, I'm not giving you any more energy. I'm not scared of you. I want my family back. I want my friends back." And you see the look on Freddie's face. He says,
Mhm.
"You what?" It's like nobody has
Yeah.
ever said this to Freddy Krueger, and he's shocked. How
Yeah.
could this woman be so strong? She dares to turn her back on me. I'm the boogeyman from your nightmares, woman. How could you dare to turn your back on me? And he actually tries to leap and come after her.
Mhm.
And because she is so strong and has convinced herself and everybody around her that she can have what she
Yeah.
wants. And this carries over into other aspects of life. It doesn't just have to stay in a horror film. I think a very strong woman is one
Mhm.
that sets her mind to whatever she wants to do and she accomplishes that no matter what happens. No matter what obstacles are put in her way. And believe me, Freddy Krueger is one big fat obstacle in your
Yeah.
way. He's an
Yeah.
obstacle in your way of being able to survive.
Yeah, 'cause you have to sleep too.
Exactly. Um, so I just think that Nancy Thompson is a hero to all
Mhm.
women. Young women,
Yeah.
middle-aged women, older women, whatever kind of woman you are, whatever
Mhm.
age a woman you are, she's saying, "You can do this."
Yeah.
And I think that that is what makes her a badass.
It
All those
does, yeah.
elements make her a badass.
I think Nancy Thompson sets the stage for badass women in horror.
Mhm.
Definitely. I think that she, to me, is the forerunner, because I mean, just watch. I mean, everybody's seen, I'm sure, Nightmare on Elm Street, but there might be somebody who's not. Just watch it. I mean, even if you love it, go back and watch it and think about it in that way of how powerful her character becomes. Because I mean, this is Freddy Krueger. This is somebody. This is the man of your nightmares. you know.
Yeah,
So, and she kind of just all of a sudden she breaks out into badass mode and she don't stop.
yeah,
You know, and it ultimately leads to her survival. She's the ultimate scream queen. Maybe not, how she screams or anything, but she is so powerful, and she's just a kid too, like Laurie Strode, but she really sets in that, um, hey, I'm not sitting down and taking this. I'm gonna fight for my life.
yeah.
Most definitely.
And the whole, like, setting up the booby
Yeah.
traps montage and all that is
Smart.
just
It
fantastic.
is. Yeah.
Um,
She's got
so
it down
that
pat.
right.
You would
So
think that
that's
she'd done it before, but she hadn't.
no, no, I remember the scene where her and Glenn, are on the bridge, and he
Yeah.
takes that book that she's got, and she says, "What can I say? I'm into survival." And he kinda looks at her like, you're crazy, woman. I love you, but," he does say, "You're nutty as a fruitcake, but I
Yeah.
love you anyway."
Yeah.
There's that very sweet scene as well. Um But that kinda segues into the other character from the Nightmare on Elm Street
Mhm.
franchise, which is Alice
Yeah.
from part 4. Now,
Yeah,
again,
definitely.
Alice has an arc because
Mhm.
Alice does not start out as a badass.
No, no,
She's
she doesn't.
meek, she's unassuming, she's
Yeah.
shy,
She kinda reminds you of Carrie in a way, just kind of
she has
mild
no
and innocent.
self-confidence in
Mhm.
herself at all.
Nerdy,
Yeah. Yeah,
but
exactly.
quickly changes.
As her friends are killed off, as her brother gets killed,
Mhm.
as they die, because she was pulled into Kristen's nightmare during the
Yeah.
beginning of it, she begins to get their strengths
Yeah.
as they are killed off by Freddy.
Mhm.
So Freddy doesn't get to win in this case. He doesn't get their strengths. Alice gets them.
Alice does.
And so the scene that I love that is so kick ass, I love part 4. It's one of my favorite
Yeah.
sequels. But the scene I want to talk about, that I want to focus on, that shows when Alice is in badass mode. When it's hit. Because during the entire film up until this point, she had had her mirror covered with pictures of her
Yeah.
friends and family because she didn't want to see herself. So they have this whole montage, and it's just fantastic, where she takes off the pictures. You see her taking the pictures off the mirror. She's using the nunchucks because her brother was like a master with
Yeah.
all the stuff and doing the kicks and all that. And she does that thing with the nunchucks, and then she's dressed awesome. She's dressed badass. And at the end of that montage, she looks at herself in the mirror and she says, "Fucking A." And I'm like, oh my gosh, that is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. And sorry for using that language, but that's what she says in the movie. And that's when you know that she has hit the pinnacle of badassness.
Yeah.
That's a word. It's going to be a word for me. Um, I th- I think TJ, you want to know what happened to Alice in part 5? He said she didn't seem to have any real dream powers anymore. You know what my theory is on that is that the powers were going to her unborn child.
Yeah. I could see that. Yeah, definitely.
Because anybody that knows anything about pregnancies, and Candace has been pregnant, so she probably can get a little bit of this, that the baby. Am I right, Candace, in saying that the baby can know when the mother's stressed or when they're
Yeah.
happy or when they're sad
Yeah,
or
because
what?
they're a part of you. You're giving them nutrients. You're giving them, that's why they, stress to the mother not to get stressed or not to get, upset about things because it kind of it feeds that into your child.
Mhm.
So, yeah, a lot of things that the mothers do, everything that the mother does is represented in that kid. So, you have to follow a pretty good regimen. So I can see what you're saying, definitely.
So I think the powers went to the unborn child
Mhm.
because the unborn child, in so many ways, in part 5, needed those powers more
Yeah,
than Alice did because Freddie was focusing on the baby. The
maybe.
baby was dreaming almost constantly. So guess what? Freddie was jumping into the baby's dreams and trying to destroy Alice in the process
Yeah.
and anybody around Alice. Um, and now I know a lot of people say that part 5 is stupid and all that stuff, but um, I say take another look at it.
Yeah.
Take another look at part 5. Alice isn't a badass, but her baby is fast to becoming the next badass. TJ says, makes sense, but all the kid really has is the pulling and the dream power. But sure, he'll go along with it. Sometimes you got to have kind of out there theories for
Yeah.
horror movie logic. Um, but I still love the Alice character. She's at her best in part 4,
Yeah.
but she's she's still badass Alice is still there. There's a kernel of
Yeah.
badass
Mhm.
Alice in part 5 as well.
Yeah.
But if you really want to see complete
Yeah.
badass Alice, watch part 4.
Yeah, and that's another one that I wish Chris was here for because he loves Alice. He loves the character of Alice. And that's one that he could talk about. So maybe when we have our next one where it's gonna be on Friday, whenever he comes in, he can talk about Ripley,
Yeah,
Alice, whatever he wants to talk about.
yeah, I'd love for him to do that.
Because he'd
So,
hate to miss it.
Candace, is there anything you want to say about either Nancy or Alice before we move on to the last one?
Just basically what we already said, that definitely like I said, I think the the poster child for badass women of horror, Nancy would definitely be top tier on there for me. It's different for everybody. Like for Chris, it's Ripley. But there's just something about that Nancy character because, she is young. She's not somebody that's prepared for battle. She's not somebody who is prepared to take on this supernatural bad man that's just could tear you to shreds, but she does. She does. And she does it with her smarts and she does it with her strength.
Yeah.
So to me, she would definitely be. And then Alice kind of mirrors that. Um strength and that because she didn't have the strength at first, but she got that all those strengths from her friends and stuff, and she embraced that role and did what she had to do as well. So, Nightmare on Elm Street series probably my favorite horror series
Mhm.
of all time. So, I just love all those films. You can find a lot of weakness in those films with a lot of weakness of these characters. Even though they thought they had strength, a lot of them couldn't put up with it. They couldn't. They lost to Freddie. But then you
Right.
have people like Nancy and you have people that like Alice that kind of, they break on through that. So, yeah, I love them.
Okay, so the last one, and I don't know how familiar Candace is with this one, um, because this is a foreign film, and it doesn't fit the traditional template of a horror film either. It's more of a um, I'm going to use the R word, people. Sorry. Um, Hopefully, I won't get in trouble for using it. People seem to think you should say grape instead of the word I'm going to say, but sometimes I forget, and sometimes I get tired of referring to it as grape. Let's call it what it is. I'm going to talk about Thriller: A Cruel Picture
Mm.
with Christina Lindbergh, which is, dare I say it, it's a rape revenge movie.
Is
But
that they call her One Eye?
yes, that's the other
That's something Chris could talk about.
one.
He always liked that. I've never seen it. I never had no interest in it, but Chris loves it.
So you also have this other image of Christina Lindbergh's character there with the gun and everything. So Christina Lindbergh's character in this, I believe Madeline. Um, I could have sworn she had a different name, but that's what they got listed here. Um, she is she's rendered mute because you see this scene of her when she's a little girl, and although it's not shown, thank goodness, you get the point that an old man
Mm.
sexually assaulted her when she was a child. Okay, you can get that from the whole opening sequence. So from then on, she's mute because of that terrible thing that happened to her. So she just can't deal with it any other way. So she lives on a farm with her parents, and she's a good person. She works hard on the farm. She helps her parents out. But she has to go to the doctor every once in a while for the issues that she's got. Okay. So she leaves out one day, tells her parents goodbye, for the time being, and heads to the bus stop. And I believe she misses the bus to take her into town to see her doctor. So this guy comes pulling up in his cool car and offers her a ride into town. But this guy, Tony, is not a good guy by any stretch of the imagination. He's sleaze, he's dirt, he's filth, okay, for the purposes of this film. So what he does is he takes her out to dinner, he wines her, he dines her, he does all this kind of stuff, and she's totally naive. She's like a child. It's like she never progressed from that stage where she was assaulted.
Mhm.
Okay. And so she's very naive, and we know as we're watching this movie, that guy's not a good guy. But she doesn't know that. The character doesn't know that. So he ends up injecting her with heroin, getting
Mm.
her hooked on heroin, and then forcing her into a life of prostitution. And because she's hooked on heroin, she has withdrawal, and he will not give her her goodies, her heroin packet that will last her for so long, unless she performs favors for him. He's a pimp, basically. And so the one group of scenes in this film that I don't have to watch is that there were X-rated scenes that were not Christina Lindbergh, I don't think. They were porno shots, basically, interspersed in these scenes. When a client comes to her to have sex, they had close up
Mm,
penetration shots and, other shots that I won't go into. But be aware, if you've never seen this movie, if you watch the uncut version of it, you're going to see that unless you want to, fast forward. And I honestly, I could do without that. I mean, I got the point that these people were taking advantage of her.
yeah.
Okay, so one client comes to her and she attacks him. I think she scratches him in the face, and he's like, "You crazy bitch, I'm getting out of here." And he tells Tony, he said, "She attacked me." So Tony goes in there and he attacks her. And the reason why they called the other title for this movie is they call her One Eye is because he stabs her in the eye basically
Mm,
with the scalpel. He holds her down on the bed and fights her, and you watch this. I heard a corpse was used for this.
ooh,
That a blade was actually going into an eyeball. And it looks pretty realistic.
ooh.
Now I don't know how that's a rumor, so I don't know how real that how true that story is, but that's what I heard. And like I said, it looks pretty dang realistic.
Ooh.
So you got that horrific scene. So then from there on out, she has to wear the eye patch that she has there. So she takes enough from Tony and these clients. And she goes into revenge mode at some point. She learns how to drive. She learns how to do martial arts. She learns how to shoot a gun. She learns all of these things, and then she goes out and gets her revenge on the clients first, and then Tony. She
Yeah.
sets Tony for last. And the way that she gets Tony is she buries him up to his neck in dirt. He can't move. She puts a rope around his neck that's attached to, I think, it's either a horse or a donkey or something, and she lures it with oats. And as that animal is walking forward, guess what? It's tightening that noose on Tony's neck, and he's screaming, and he's, please, don't do this to me. And of course, she can't talk. She don't say it. She just
Yeah.
swears at him like, "You bastard! You did this to me. You put me in this situation, and now I'm going to get my revenge." No, I'm not talking about Misery again. I'm talking about Thriller: A Cruel Picture, Uncle Bill. Um, but this is probably, minus the porno inserts, this is probably one of my favorite rape revenge films of all time. If I can be brave enough to say that, and I say that because the woman is so powerful in this. The woman wins out. I'm
Yeah.
not talking about any of the rape, or any of that. That's not what I'm there to watch. I want to watch this woman get her revenge. And that's what I think makes Christina Lindbergh's character in this such a badass, is because when she starts taking these people out, she is like a damn machine. She's blowing away people in public with shotguns and stuff. It is amazing. Uh, and then, you might think it's kind of simplistic how she kills Tony, but I think she saved the best for last
Yeah.
when she slowly and methodically kills him off. It would have to be torture to do something like that to
Oh,
someone.
yeah.
Um, but maybe Candace can watch this film sometime. So, you know, I would maybe suggest watching the one without the porno inserts, because frankly, they're not needed.
Yeah.
They're really not needed to enhance the movie or bring the point across or anything like that. I think that was probably mere titillation, or for foreign audiences, maybe they thought that that was something that
Little extra something to look at.
exactly. Um, Blissful says, "Wouldn't it be great if all violated women could do that?"
Yeah.
Well, the next time we do this on Friday, I'm going to be talking about another rape revenge classic. I'm
Mhm.
going to be talking about I Spit on Your Grave, but I
Yeah.
will save that one for that show. But Candace, before we tie this all up, is there anything else that you want to bring up?
No, I'll save what I wanna talk about for the next shows, and I'll probably have a lot more to say about, on that show because a lot of the women, of at least 2 to 3, it doesn't fit this horror, It's stuff that people who like horror enjoy,
Uh
but
huh.
it didn't necessarily kinda fit that title. So I said, well, if we do another one, I'll talk about it then. So I'll be ready to talk a little bit more then about
Okay,
stuff. But I've enjoyed this show. I've
I
enjoyed
have
talking
too.
about these. I didn't, and you've covered everybody that I wanted to cover. So Carrie,
We
Clarice.
didn't talk about this beforehand, folks.
No, no, everybody that, and I knew whenever you were getting ready to bring up Clarice, I said she's getting ready to bring up. I just failed it. I knew that's what you was going to say, and because that's one that I definitely wanted to talk about, and Nancy and Alice. So you covered everybody I wanted to talk about today. So I'm glad about that because we kind of had the same list. I even Ripley. I said I bet Dana's going to talk about Ripley. I don't know as much. Chris would have definitely, and like I said, he could talk about it
Oh yeah.
next week because I'm sure he has a lot to say about that. But I'm excited to do another one. And I'm excited to see who you have that isn't horror because I'm sure that you can come up with some good ones too. Now, mine might be a little surprising.
Hmm.
You're like, "Oh, okay," but I don't know. I want to talk about them.
Well, that's fine. We want to have some flexibility
Mhm. And
in
that's
these
the thing
shows.
about Friday Foolish is we don't focus just on horror anyway, is we focus on all kinds of stuff. It's a variety show. We
Yep.
talk about all kinds of things. It could be something that has nothing to do with horror entirely, like our, collectible show. It wasn't all
We
about
had
horror.
different things in them.
It's about different things, so that's why we have fun doing these. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, I've had a lot of fun doing this, and I'm excited about the next one.
Me too. And
Anybody who wants to come on here and talk to, I don't mean to interrupt you or nothing, Dana,
oh no,
but
no, let's go ahead.
anybody else who wants to come, our show, Dana will mirror what I'm saying.
Yes,
You're
ma'am.
always welcome to come on here and talk about who you wanna talk about. Maybe there's somebody that you're passionate about
Even
that
old
you
Uncle Bill can come on
Yeah.
and talk about
There's something that you want to talk about that is in with the subject that we're talking about, feel free to come on and join us. As long as, like Dana always says, as long as you're respectable and you don't do anything that's, bad, come on here and surprise us with something, that we might not want to see.
that
um,
nobody needs to see, really.
yeah, that you're welcome to come on here and talk about it because I know me and Dana aren't the only ones that are interested in this stuff. This chat has been burning up with people talking
Oh,
too.
yeah.
So come
And
on and
Blissful,
join us.
I'm looking at you again,
Yeah,
honey.
definitely. We're the more the merrier, is the way I see it. So because I like Dana has said too, we could do multiple
Yep,
versions of this show. It doesn't have to be just a one part or a 2-part thing. We'll eventually do the collectible thing again, I'm sure.
yep. We definitely will. And I don't consider it like recycling
No.
of stuff. It's just an extension of what
Mhm.
we didn't cover the last time. Uh,
Yeah.
we're just trying to keep it fresh, keep the
Mhm.
ideas flowing. Um, I'm definitely going to be getting me a notebook to write stuff down in. CK suggested
That's
that.
something that I need to do. I need to write stuff down. That way I can be better prepared. Like I knew who I was wanting to talk about today and stuff like that, but maybe if I can sit and write down a list. If we do multiple shows, eventually I cover everybody that I want to talk about, and the same with you. So yeah, that's a good suggestion, definitely.
And I just want to remind everybody of a few things that will be coming up in addition to Friday Foolish this coming week. So I'm planning on doing the Stephen's Kingdom show from last week that I didn't get to do because I wasn't feeling up to it. Tuesday will be another Everybody Wants England. And I'd love to have some people on there for Everybody Wants England. Actually, people might wonder, well, what movies are you going to do, Dana? If I can find my list real quick here. I've got so many dang lists around here, I can't keep track of everything. No, those are all. Where is my Robert England stuff here? Well, heck, Dana. I don't know what you done with it. Well, I'll try to get my schedule together, the schedule with the music in the background, so that you guys will know. I don't want to keep people on here while I fumble around with paperwork. But Wednesday will be another apples and oranges. And what I'm going to be talking about, and I think Chris, I want to give credit where credit is due. I think Chris gave me this idea. Um, on the John Landis Twilight Zone, the movie controversy. Now,
Yeah.
I know a lot of people have a lot of strong opinions on that, and it's fine if you want to come on and you want to share those strong opinions. But please, everybody, just keep in mind, be respectful of the other people that are on the stream, be respectful of people in the chat, because I'm telling you, this is a hot button topic. It
Yes.
has been
Okay.
for years. And
Mhm.
I don't want this to turn into, uh, well, you shouldn't be watching any John Landis films because that guy's a murderer. I don't want that to
No.
go on. I just want to discuss the controversies around it, discuss what happened, discuss what people think of John Landis's career before and
Mm,
after that happened. We want to be respectful above all things. You can have
definitely.
strong opinions one way or the other,
Mhm.
but let's just keep it nice, keep it on a nice level.
Yeah,
And I
because
don't.
everybody has different opinions.
Mm,
You
I
have to
think
be respectful of that.
I think this is going to be a little bit of a darker topic,
It
and that's
is.
why I just wanted to lay that out there before anybody gets any ideas about how we're going to handle it.
Yeah.
But I did think that that was good that Chris brought that up, and I thought that that was a good idea for a topic of discussion
Mhm.
and possibly debate. But I just don't want any. Just don't let your emotions get the better of you when we have this show.
Yeah, if you think you can't handle somebody having a difference of opinion than you, then don't come on.
Because I
Because Dana
guarantee I'm going to have a difference of
yeah,
opinion. So,
'cause Dana's not wanting somebody putting out a battle against each other. It's not like that. This is a friendly debate, not something that is gonna make enemies of people.
no, we definitely don't want to do that.
Mm,
We want
no.
it to stay on a strictly friendly basis.
But if you think you can handle the heat, then come on into Dana's kitchen. She's
Yes,
got it
we'll bake a cake in my kitchen.
she's
Um,
got the big old apples and oranges pie baking in the oven for you there, so
yep, yep, exactly.
come on
We'll
in
have
for
some
a bite.
apple pie and orange blossom tea, and we'll just
There you go.
be nice. But I'm gonna have to get off here because it sounds like dog craziness is going on.
I have to go pick up Chris. It's about time for me to
Oh
go.
yeah, Steve, stop that. He's yelling out Chris's name and he's saying it weirdly. I don't know why he does that. I think he needs to go chill out. But anyway, he's not making fun of Chris anybody.
I don't care if he does.
No, it's something me and my friend did.
It's something you and your friend did.
Jeff,
So,
we
talking
made-
about somebody named
His name was
Chris.
Quiz, and we call him Quiz.
Okay, well, that explains that. I don't know if Steve's ever told me that. But anyway, we're going to get off here. So Candice isn't late going to pick up Chris, and I'm not late helping Steve get sheets and
Yeah,
blankets
you're
and
too
stuff
late.
back on the bed. I'm so sorry, dear. Um,
Right.
but anyway, I want to remind everybody, as always. Oh, and I want to thank Candace for being on here with
Well,
me
thank you for having me.
for Sunday silly to or
Sunday sillies.
yeah, Sunday silly instead of Friday foolish. And I want to thank everybody in the chat. But as always, I want to remind everybody to be kind to one another and blaze that trail. And we'll see everybody next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.